The current DCEU is ending, but we finally get our first look and reveal of what and how the DCEU originally has supposed to end, and the final film we would have experienced in theaters. This is coming from Inverse.com. The DC Extended Universe is full of missed opportunities. Some, like Zack Snyder's original vision for 2017's Justice League, were eventually realized, but most will remain unfulfilled as the DCEU reboots itself into the DCU under the guidance of James Gunn. However, none of those missed opportunities is quite as disappointing as the fate of The Flash, which finally arrived after years of delays only to flop hard with fans and critics alike. Well, according to Jay Oliva, a storyboard artist on several DCEU movies, including the DC animated film Flashpoint Paradox, he said, when we were doing Zack Snyder's Justice League, I was instrumental in talking to those guys about how Flash was going to be and everything. He worked with the original first director who was attached to the Flash movie, Seth Grahame-Smith. He said, I did a storyboard for him, I did that test, I don't think I ever saw it, but it got the green light for the movie. And then Grahame-Smith left the project in 2016 over creative differences. Oliva stuck around and Rick Famuyiwa came aboard as the new director. I worked with Rick for like 6 or 7 months on that Flash movie, right up until Rick left in October of 2017. The cast was in London, they were building sets. When Rick left, I switched gears and did the reshoots for the ending of Wonder Woman. Now, we don't really quite know what was going to be in Famuyiwa's cancelled Flash movie. The cast at times include Ray Fisher's Cyborg and Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman. But one thing was clear, it was nothing like the movie released in 2023. Oliva says Rick's movie wasn't the Flashpoint movie. Originally, there was supposed to be just Zack's 5 films and one side movie, which ended up being Suicide Squad. But after the success of Man of Steel, Warner decided to go all in on its cinematic universe. Rick's movie was going to be a series of films, just like Aquaman. I think all of those films, they were planning to be trilogies. So essentially, we would have got Flash 1, Flash 2, Flash 3, and those movies would have had the Flash's Rogues Gallery, where they would have introduced a classic Flash villain, Eobard Thawne, aka Professor Zoom or Reverse Flash. Rick's movie was laying the groundwork for Zoom as the big baddie of the DC universe. It was Professor Zoom pulling the strings because he had come from the future to basically F with Barry. In the Flash movies, Zoom would be the villain in the background, but also in the ancillary other films, you would see some of the influences of Zoom on the rest of the Justice League. At the end of Zack's Dark Side quadrilogy or whatever, we would end up with a Justice League Unlimited version of the Snyderverse. And then you flip it. You do Flashpoint Paradox. Everybody who's friends are now enemies, and it's a world that you don't want to live in. You can reboot the universe and introduce a new cast that way, because after 10 years, the actors need to go on to something else. So you mean to tell me in an alternate universe where we actually got to finish the DCEU, we would have had that whole Dark Side saga, and then it would have led into Professor Zoom pulling all the strings and being the ultimate baddie in a way? Then we would have actually got a live action version of Justice League The Flashpoint Paradox, having Thomas Wayne played by Jeffrey Dean Morgan as Flashpoint Batman. Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman would have killed Amber Heard's Mara. Imagine Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman fighting off Jason Momoa's Aquaman in the war. We got a really skinny looking Henry Cavill as Superman. And of course, the final goodbye to the DCEU as the Flash runs back in time to correct his wrongs. But alas, because of so many regime changes and power plays in the studios, it would have been cool, but now it's just gonna be gone. Let's hope James Gunn's DC Universe is a complete vision and not a mixed up one like how it was before.